Thank you for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, Israel and Hezbollah still at war, but a ceasefire may be possible. After the brutal attacks on Israelis following a soccer match in Amsterdam, Israel's new foreign minister warns we're seeing the worst anti-Semitism since World War II. Here at home, President Trump moving to name his new cabinet as Republicans appear to be on the verge of capturing the House of Representatives as well as the Senate. And why some in Brazil are talking about a miracle from God in the aftermath of devastating floods earlier this year. All those stories and more are ahead right now on CBN NewsWatch.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
We're going to begin this half hour in the Middle East, where Israel is still at war with Hezbollah, but a ceasefire may be possible, and much of the world is still reeling from the riot following a soccer match in Amsterdam Friday, where Muslims attacked thousands of Israelis. After returning from the Netherlands, Israel's new foreign minister told journalists his country is battling a level of anti-Semitism not experienced since World War II. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us the story. She reports from Jerusalem.
This wave of anti-Semitism we see right now is focused on, I call it new anti-Semitism, focused on the denial of the right of Israel to exist as a Jewish state, focused on the denial of the right of Israel to self-defense.
Special evacuation flights brought 2,000 Israelis home over the weekend after the Amsterdam attacks. Part of that is due to Jews being denied rights like self-defense, which the UN grants to all nations.
When we are talking about the country that is most attacked in the world, most threatened in the world, with other UN state members like Iran speaking publicly and deliberately about eliminating it. But this country is attacked with an effort to deny its right to self-defense.
Sa'ar is calling on all nations to stand up and make Jewish communities secure, much like Germany did a year ago when it criminalized the Palestinian chant, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free."
To take care of incitement against Jews and against the state of Israel as the only Jewish state in the world, and to combat seriously the phenomenon of new anti-Semitism with all its expressions.
Following meetings with leaders in the Netherlands, Sa'ar believes they understand the challenge.
We discussed different ideas, how to deal with it, what to do, and I'm sure that will take place in European level.
As for the war in Lebanon, Sa'ar says there has been progress on a ceasefire agreement, which must include Hezbollah's total disarmament with no ability to regain strength.
Even if we will reach to an agreement, the most important thing will be not the words in an agreement with Lebanon, but the enforcement and the willingness and the decisiveness.
He adds, while bringing security to Israel, it would also benefit the Lebanese people.
We will assure that Hezbollah will not be a threat to Israel. But the international community can assure the future of Lebanon as a free country, a sovereign country, not enforced to be an Iranian proxy, which I'm sure that the majority of the citizens of Lebanon don't want to be.
Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
I want to continue our coverage now with CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell. He's joining us from Jerusalem. So, Chris, what are the chances of a workable ceasefire that actually disarms Hezbollah and removes it as a threat to Israel?
Well, Ephraim, right now, Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer, he reportedly has met with Vladimir Putin in Moscow. Currently, he seems to be meeting with President Trump and his advisors at Mar-a-Lago. There is progress, according to Gidon Sa'ar, the foreign minister, in Julie's story, but it has to be on Israel's terms. And that would mean a total disarmament, no possibility to regain strength. There's here in Israel, they don't really trust the wording that was in UN Resolution 1701 after the Second Lebanon War. That didn't work. It really said that there would be no militias inside southern Lebanon, and that certainly didn't happen. Hezbollah filled that vacuum and increased its strength about 10 times. And also the possibility of freeing the Lebanese people from Iran. That's what Gidon Sa'ar was talking about. This really is a historic opportunity for the people of Lebanon to be free from Iran and no longer be an Iranian proxy. And that is the ultimate goal of the Lebanese people.
How strong is Hezbollah now after months of warfare with Israel?
Well, it's severely weakened. From 80% of its rockets have been destroyed. They've killed its command structure. Over the weekend on Sunday's cabinet meeting, Benjamin Netanyahu actually took credit for that infamous and famous pager attack that considered by some the best attack of its kind in history that targeted just the Hezbollah terrorists and didn't harm civilians. It killed, wounded, or incapacitated thousands. So they're dismantling Hezbollah's infrastructure, especially along the border. And many of those tunnels that were actually been used for what would have been, according to Hezbollah, actually on October 7th on a much greater scale. But Hezbollah is still putting up a front. There's a guerrilla campaign, and believe it or not, they're still firing rockets into Israel. And Ephraim, this is today's Jerusalem Post, 175 rockets fired into Israel. They're going down as far south as Haifa or near Tel Aviv sometimes. So still a battle going on with Hezbollah in southern Lebanon and here in Israel.
What steps is Israel taking to protect its citizens in other countries?
Well, proactive operations. Some people may think that the Mossad will be operating in some of these European capitals and cities to really hit and be proactive. Some of these people and organizations that are behind these attacks, many see the European government sometimes unwilling or unable to protect Jews in their countries. And I've mentioned this before, but it really resonates here with Israelis and the Jewish people all over the world. It seems like Kristallnacht in 2024, Kristallnacht being German for the night of broken glass, when hundreds of synagogues were destroyed, thousands of businesses, Jewish businesses destroyed, and 30,000 Jewish men arrested. And also, it's pointed out here that a lot of Europeans countries, they have a problem with massive immigration from Muslim countries, this jihad by immigration, where some parts of major European cities are off limits. We found that to be personally true in the place Brussels a few years ago after we covered one of the terror attacks there. So very, very difficult situation for Europe right now, for Jews and for many of these countries.
Indeed. There's talk in Israel that with President-elect Donald Trump coming back into power, there may be a move for Israel to try to annex the West Bank. How likely is that to happen?
Well, it's possible, but it could be difficult politically. We covered just recently a place called an event called the Middle East Summit. That was where Ambassador David Friedman, former ambassador, U.S. ambassador here to Israel, he introduced what his book called One Jewish State, where actually they would declare sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, known as the West Bank. It was Oslo Accords have been going on for 30 years. They haven't worked. And he believes this is something that can. He believes it's based on Scripture, God's promise to the Jewish people. And actually, it may be difficult politically, but he believes it could actually help Israelis and Palestinians. The key, he says, is that there would have to be a change of mind for secular Israelis. Many religious Israelis who believe in the Bible believe something like this would work. But Ambassador Friedman says there really has to be a serious conversation between many of the religious Israelis and secular Israelis.
What do you have today coming up on Jerusalem Dateline?
Well, Ephraim, we're going to be talking about Netanyahu and Trump speaking on the phone. What does this mean? They've spoken 3 times already. We have a story on the danger of European anti-Semitism. Also, a powerful story about the rescue of a Yazidi girl captured by ISIS and been a sex slave for many years. And also a new documentary on the dilemma of Israel. which is highly relevant today, and also reaction of the moderate Arab world about Trump's victory.
Look forward to seeing those reports. Our CBN News Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell, thank you so much, as always, for your insight. Stay safe, and know that we back here continue to pray for you and our team on the ground there in Israel. Want to remind you at home, you can see the latest from Jerusalem Dateline this evening on the CBN News Channel. It begins at 8 Eastern. You can also watch it on the CBN News app, or you can watch on YouTube. Coming up here at home, it looks like Republicans will have control of Capitol Hill after last week's elections, and they are on the verge of clinching the majority in the House of Representatives. And with a majority of 53 seats, they're getting ready to choose a new leader in the Senate. We're going to have that story for you when we come back. President Donald Trump is moving quickly to name his new cabinet. The president is expected to choose Florida Senator Marco Rubio as his Secretary of State, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem as Secretary of Homeland Security, Florida Congressman Mike Waltz to be his National Security Advisor, New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik as the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, and former Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director Tom Homan will be the border czar responsible for deporting illegal immigrants. Republicans appear to be on their way toward a clean sweep of last week's election. One analysis group, Decision Desk HQ, is projecting the GOP will win the House of Representatives, but others are holding off on their predictions, and the final count for all of the races may take several days yet. The GOP has already captured the Senate and now must decide on a new majority leader. Capitol Hill correspondent Michelle London brings us this look at the balance of power in Washington.
As of now, Republicans appear to be on track to keep the House majority. They have 214 seats out of the required 218. With 18 races to be decided, we may not know the overall outcome for days. After retaking the Senate, members will vote for a new party leader Wednesday to replace Mitch McConnell, who's stepping aside after nearly 2 decades at the helm.
One of the most gratifying results of the Senate becoming Republican, the filibuster will stand. There won't be any new states admitted, and we'll quit beating up the Supreme Court every time we don't like a decision they make.
McConnell, the longest-serving party leader in U.S. history, first won the job back in 2007.
You guys know how long I've been around. I had really hoped I'd be able to hand over to my successor the majority.
The 3 main contenders are South Dakota Senator John Thune, Texas Senator John Cornyn, and Florida Senator Rick Scott, whom chief political analyst David Brody sees as a possible frontrunner.
The energy right now is with Senator Rick Scott. There's no doubt about it. You got people like Tucker Carlson, Elon Musk, others that are in Trump's orbit lobbying for Senator Scott. So that's what makes it interesting. It makes it a wild card.
Whoever wins, Donald Trump insists they support his ability to install recess appointments to his cabinet. Meanwhile, Wyoming Senator John Barrasso is expected to take the number 2 slot as majority whip. Barrasso telling NBC's Meet the Press Sunday that the Senate will act swiftly.
The mandate are the 2 things that people cared the most about, which is the high costs and the open border. And those are the things we're going to start working on immediately.
As for the House, votes in at least 18 uncalled races are still being counted, and Republicans are on track to keep their majority next year. Democrats lost a competitive race in Michigan, where Republican Tom Barrett defeated Congressman Curtis Hertel, flipping the state's 7th congressional seat. The Democrats' last hope for flipping the chamber rests on 5 Republican-held seats in California, 2 in Arizona, and 1 in Iowa, where GOP incumbent Rep. Marionette Miller Meeks is likely headed for a recount. Republicans currently lead in all those seats, as Democrats also fight to protect remaining vulnerable seats in California and Colorado. In Pennsylvania, several outlets have declared Republican David McCormick the winner. But with nearly 100,000 ballots left to be counted, Democrat incumbent Bob Casey hasn't conceded. Michelle London, CBN News, Washington.
Still ahead, massive flooding that destroyed everything in its path and left homes and buildings under thick layers of mud. See the miracle from God that helped this community to rebuild. We've got that story for you. It's coming up right after this. When devastating floods struck southern Brazil earlier this year, the waters buried hundreds of towns. Teams from Operation Blessing arrived within days to help communities begin rebuilding. Now, several months later, the work is still ongoing, but some in the community are celebrating what they call a miracle from God. George Thomas reports.
Paulo and Daisonaro Bardo still become emotional while reflecting on those difficult days of mid-April when flooding devastated their community here in southern Brazil.
From the very moment it happened, every minute, every second, God told us to just trust him.
As Paulo navigated the flood waters by boat, he recorded the destruction of their barber shop and surrounding homes, along with the hopeless feeling he felt.
When we first opened the doors, everything was destroyed. We didn't expect to find anything salvageable. The water reached the ceiling, causing immense destruction. We had no hope of rebuilding.
Their 4-year-old business lay buried under thick layers of mud, with all their belongings ruined.
From the very beginning, God was telling us to trust and have faith. I didn't know what I was supposed to trust in the middle of such destruction, until the Lord brought people from all over the world to make it happen.
Operation Blessing deployed aid workers within days, learned of the Bardo's plight, and quickly stepped in to help.
We could never have rebuilt the way Operation Blessing did. We might have tried to reuse some equipment, but there wasn't much to save. Without their help, we wouldn't have succeeded.
OB bought them new furniture and tools, enabling them to resurrect their business, which now supports 3 additional stylist families. Their shop now proudly displays a sign proclaiming this place is a fruit of a miracle from God.
I tell my clients that what God did in the barber shop through Operation Blessing was a miracle. We experienced this miracle in our business and families because where there was once despair, God brought hope through OB.
From the middle of April all the way through May, this region of southern Brazil got more than 15 inches of rain. In essence, affecting more than 90% of the entire state. Operation Blessing decided to come to the small community of Santos Dumont. And one of the first things they did to help the community was to rebuild the church.
You know, the pastor was super hopeless. They were not even expecting to come back.
When I saw the destruction of the church and the surrounding community, I never thought there would be a way to rebuild.
That's when Operation Blessing approached him with a plan to rebuild.
The Lord brought people from OB, from the other side of the world, to unite with us in an alliance to help rebuild. If we had relied solely on human strength, it would not have been possible.
While some volunteers worked on the church, others focused on Sue Ellen de Silva's community center, known as Sonos e Sabores, or Dreams and Flavors. For years, this center served as a refuge for hundreds of underprivileged individuals, providing hot meals, clothing, and showers. Unfortunately, it also sustained significant damage.
I'll be honest, life in this community is very difficult. Many people are homeless and live in precarious conditions. Most are now living by collecting trash and recycling. There's a lack of everything: water, sanitation, food. The community center was their only lifeline.
Through 4 months of work, Operation Blessing helped install new showers, toilets, a kitchen, a dining area, and a classroom with desks for children.
I'm filled with gratitude for OB. Nothing this significant has ever happened to me, and you can imagine how many people benefit from this center each day. They come here for lunch, dinner, and showers. OB will be forever loved by this community.
The catastrophic flooding also made existing water quality issues worse in Rio Grande do Sul, contaminating local water resources with debris, pollutants, and sewage, making safe drinking water even more scarce.
It's been very challenging because the post-disaster, post-cleanup is always more complicated.
In some rural and underserved areas, Operation Blessing partnered with Bethel Church to provide residents with clean water, food supplies, and hygiene kits. CBN News covered a recent outreach as the two groups assisted numerous families and set up a mobile laundry service.
Today we're serving 170 families in the Fatima neighborhood, one of the areas most affected by the flood. We're distributing food boxes, hygiene kits, cleaning supplies, blankets, and our mobile laundromat is washing clothes for the residents.
Operation Blessing also worked with Pastor Matias Tasso soon after the disaster to help tens of thousands affected by the flooding.
We always pray to be witnesses of God, and when the flooding happened in a way that we never imagined, it gave us the huge opportunity to share God's love.
Pastor Tasso says he saw a record number of people coming to church for the first time. Among them, Gabriel Rodriguez, a community leader and gang member who was touched by Operation Blessing volunteers and church members who frequently worked in his neighborhood.
I'll keep going to church because it brings me peace. It brings me tranquility during this period of chaos we're living in. It's overwhelming, but there in the church, I can find myself.
5 months later, as the state of Rio Grande do Sul rebuilds, Traverso sees resilience and spirit here, showing that even amid challenges, compassion and community can lead to recovery and renewal.
Most of the businesses that we reopen, they want to reinvest their profit even. They want to charge less of what they used to charge. Why? Because they want to bless the community.
George Thomas, CBN News, reporting from Rio Grande do Sul, southern Brazil.
Coming up, a strong opening at the box office for a new family film we previewed right here on CBN NewsWatch last week. We'll have that story for you when we come back. A strong opening for a new holiday family film. The Best Christmas Pageant Ever finished number 3 at the box office this weekend, bringing in just under $11 million. The film tells the story of 6 mischievous siblings who get into all types of trouble, including hijacking the town's Christmas pageant. And instead, they end up with leading roles in the play. It's worth seeing. Very fun. Time now for your Tuesday Tweetable, and here's a message I hope you will post, tag, tweet, and share with those in your circles of influence. It is not over. If you're breathing, God is still writing your story. Turn the page. Stop reading that same old chapter again and again and again. There are new pages and fresh chapters with much better outcomes. Hold on. Weeping may endure for the night, but here's the good news. Joy is coming in the morning. That will do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News channel. You can find them there at any time. That's cbnnews.com. You can also let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today by emailing us, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. We'll see you back here same time tomorrow. Goodbye.